Well, hello, General Hospital Daily Recap fans. Today's daily recap is for Wednesday, August the 27th, 2025. It's kind of funny. Yeah, I chuckled at a few little places here. But before I get into that, um, I don't know if you all know, you probably don't, because I only do maybe 3 month recap, 2 months recaps uh, on The Young and the Restless. Only when I just want to get caught up or whatever. But I still watch it every day. I just don't want to talk about it. But anyway, yesterday's episode, I had to take some pictures from that episode yesterday because anyway, that was my granddaughter FaceTiming me, telling me about her day at school. So anyway, y'all, they featured Tristan Rogers because he also played a character on The Young and the Restless years ago, and they would have him pop in and out. For a while there, he was on The Young and the Restless, and they had Robert Scorpio off of General Hospital doing something on a mission, right? He would play Colin Atkinson, and his son was Kane Ashby. Well, on the soap, you remember, well, I didn't say this on General Hospital, but Kane came back a month or two ago and he had said his father died. Well, yesterday they had some flashback scenes right before the character Colin died. Kane was with him, Jill was with him. But you could seriously see um, Tristan Rogers, the toll his health had taken on him because this was pretty recent. So, just like on General Hospital, to me, his final scenes on General Hospital, to me, he was healthier or in better health when he shot those than when he shot these Young and the Restless final scenes. And I'm sure they're going to sprinkle in some more because these were Kane was living with him at the time, right? So I just had to take some pictures and bring this on because I looked at it and I said, wow, really miss him. Rest in peace. But anyway, let's get into a GH. What I chuckled at, everybody. Alexis. Alexis just comes down the stairs like it's a normal thing to have a captive in the basement. And she walks over and Rick wakes up. He's got that ball thing in a gag ball in his mouth or ball gag in his mouth. And she's like, wait, huh? And he's just, get me out of here. You want me? And she's like, I can't understand you. That was funny. So she goes, oh, you want me to take this off? So she gets it out of his mouth and he's like, oh, Alexis, you thank God you're here. You have got to untie me. I need to get out of here. She goes, wow, do you know what happened? And he's like, well, I was over to see you about, the arrangement that we made. And I ran into Christina, and Christina, we're talking, and says then Ava came in, and Ava was upset. And then I told Ava that the whole blackmail thing was over and blah, blah, blah. And she says, yeah, she told us about that. Something about you took all of the money out of the accounts and even the money that he goes, yeah, and the money that you transferred her in secret. Ooh, took that too. And you put it into some treasury bonds. Okay. That won't be mature for 30 days. She goes, so you could kind of see Ava. She gets angry. you know, you can kind of see where you're in this predicament, why you're in this predicament, Rick. And he's like, if you get me out of here, I will take care of Ava. I won't even mention that it happened here, and I'll keep you out of it. And I'm thinking, as if you would, right? And so she says, well, that's the thing. See, before you came to me with a deal, Ava came to me with a deal. He says, and why aren't you siding? He goes, naturally, you're going to side with the father of your child, right? She says, no. Because see, Ava is offering me the video evidence of Christina in her garage, parking garage, and she's going to give me the key to the storage unit where your car is stored. So Ava could do more for me than you can. And he looked at her, he goes, you know, you cannot trust Ava Jerome. You can't trust her at all. And what's the end game, Alexis? Well, we're going to wait for those bonds to mature. And then, and this is what didn't make sense. We're going to replace what was taken from the Cassadine estate, from Ace's estate. Now, if Alexis believed that Ava would do that, Alexis has a hole in her head. 100%. Why would Ava now turn around and say all the money that we have embezzled or had you embezzle, go ahead and put that back. I'll just take my divorce settlement, because let's be real, she's already had disbursements, right? And he goes, you can't believe that Ava's gonna do that. She goes, yeah. She says, and he says, and then after the 30 days, because I don't know with bonds, right? With federal bonds, treasury bonds, does the bearer, the person that's holding on to the bond paperwork, do they have access, or is there a name on that? I don't know. The comment corner, if you know, put that in comment corner, okay? Because what they're gonna do, take Rick gagged and bound to the Treasury Department? Is that what they're gonna do? I mean, because still to me, there is no real plan to this, okay? Or it sounds like one Christina could have made up, because Alexis can't think that's gonna work, okay? So anyway, Alexis says, well, you know what? I've got to go, okay? Um, I know this isn't as comfortable as it can be, but you know what? You'll be all right. Um, so she goes to walk up the stairs. Alexis, Alexis. And she goes, nobody can hear you down here. So he's like, somebody help me. Somebody help. Now, Molly, Sonny, and Christina are upstairs in the living room. Sonny came by to talk to Molly about ADA Turner. And Molly didn't give her too much. She just said, look, she's fair. She goes by the book. And she's not going to be unjust. And I thought, well, that ain't the ADA Turner that we've been privy to in the past cases, right? When she was, who was she against? I think she was when John Cates, speaking of which, turned up dead. But she didn't try to frame Alexis or anything, but she, whatever, we'll see. That was just stupid for Sonny to be over there. So she goes, and he said, somebody help me. And so she goes, oh, you know what? Just to be on the safe side, I'm gonna have to put this back in. And he's like, no, no. She goes, and she's tussling. She goes, no, come on, let's get this in. And she finally got it into his mouth, and he's like, oh, that was hilarious to me. And she leaves. Well, later, After Molly goes to work, Sonny leaves. Christina comes sauntering down into the room, and he's looking at her, and he's like, Christina, where's Christina? And she goes, oh, hey, Rick. And she goes to the foot of the bed. She says, I know my mother had a conversation with you, so you understand why you're in this predicament. She goes, look, the situation could be a little worse, right? She says, gee, oh my goodness, you're lucky to be alive. That Ava, man, she packs a wow. My mom's paperweight, she picked that thing up and hit you on the back of the head. And then she goes, and I think she went a little overboard on the duct tape on you. Because so Christina says, listen, all it's gonna be is 30 days. So once those bonds mature, right? Um, we will take care of Molly. We will tell her some story as to why she can't reach you. We'll handle it. See, Molly and I are sisters. She says, and come to think of it, I almost feel sad for you because nobody's gonna look for you. And Rick is just looking. I'm thinking, well, Elizabeth, as much as she protests not to want Rick's affections and attention, she'll notice in a week if he hasn't come around. Because Lucas told her today that Ava and him broke up, right? They won't be seeing each other anymore. And so he goes, so I want you to know he's going to be around here more often. And Elizabeth goes, nope. And I know how to have my barbed wire up and boundaries. And sure, Elizabeth, sure, Miss Blackmailer. So anyway, Christina says, but now that you're on the receiving end of Ava's wrath, she says, I wonder, Rick, do you now kind of believe that she pushed me out of that window? She says, because after all, Molly and I lost a baby. And she turns and she goes and walks up the stairs, kind of slowly looking at him like, yeah, there you go. And he's like, who's taking off? Yeah, go ahead, Rick. Go ahead. So it's Gio's mother's birthday, Camilla, late mother's birthday. He was at the chapel lighting a candle for her, and he ran into um Marco. He says he comes there whenever he's really thinking about his mother, and he just lights a candle for his mother. So they talk briefly. Gio says, yeah, I'm Sonny's grandson. I know that a while the papers or in the news was making it like my Uncle Sonny killed your mom, but I'm telling you he didn't. And Marco says, well, the tox report says there was no foul play. So, you know, I just let that go, which he really didn't because he ran to his daddy saying, you've got to use the information you have right now. Why are you holding on to it? And he's like, Marco, you must calm down, Marco. I will use it when the time is right. Okay, I have a plan, Marco. Just be patient, my son. And Marco's like, the window of opportunity, you're losing it. He goes, son, I know what I'm doing, son. You've got to trust me. So Marco goes to the PC Grill, and at the PC Grill, we've got Willow. Now, when he got there, I think Willow had already left, possibly, or he came in as Willow was getting ready to leave. Nina walks into the PC grill, sees Drew and Willow sitting there. As she walked over, she says, Willow, and I'll get back to Camilla and BLQ and Gio. Willow, what are you doing here? Being seen in public with this man. You're gonna give Michael more ammunition. I thought you were done with him. Well, Chicky saw him through the door window at the hospital hugging. You knew she wasn't done with him, but she playing it off, right? And Willow looked. And so Drew says, we're having a private lunch, Nina. Nina pulls up a chair, sits down. She goes, Willow, you cannot fall prey to him again. He cost you your children. And Drew's like, that's not true. She goes, Willow, everything he's done cost you your children. And I fear if you go down this road, it'll ensure you will never see them again. So she goes, Michael? She goes, no, Drew didn't cost me my children. You did. Nina looks at her. She says, Drew told me that he wanted to tell me about you and him from the beginning. And you prevented him from doing that. And Nina looks at Willow, then she turns and she looks at Drew like, you son of a, she goes, why, you're despicable. And she looked back at Willow. She goes, he's lying to you, Willow. Just like he's been lying to you. I absolutely was not preventing him from telling you. That's what he wants you to believe. And he can't help you get your every plan he has had to get you your kids back has failed, Willow. And matter of fact, he's made things worse. And Drew's sitting there like, but before Nina got there and Drew's talking to Willow, what is all this hand over your heart? I'm so surprised you called me. What made you do that? But anyway, she goes, because Michael has all the power. And Michael is going to try to prevent me from seeing my kids ever. I need Drew's power and the power that Drew has to help even the playing field. And Nina's like, but that's not going to even it. Well, anyway, yeah, there you go. So Willow's looking at Nina scowly, right? As she's talking. So she stands up and she goes, look, Drew, if and when you get my, no, I don't even think she said when, when you get my kids back for me, I will come back to you. But only if you get my kids back. See, that's what Michael is fighting against. She is willing to put her children's mental health and well-being under the control of a man that she already knows twice has verbally abused Wiley, verbally, with the things he has said to him, or made sure Wiley overheard the lies, right? Yep, she's willing to do that. She don't care about Wiley's feelings or what you've done regarding that. You know, that kind of person, oh my goodness, no, right? So she stands up, she storms out. And I think Marco heard that last part. So Nina says, if you hurt my daughter, you're a liar. You have already ruined her life. And Drew's like, you don't know what you're talking about, Nina. And she ends up saying, if you hurt Willow, I am going to end you myself. See, we got now all these people, right? And Marco's like, oh, okay. Hmm. And Nina storms off. So Marco comes over to Drew and said, Congressman Kane, I couldn't help but overhear your situation. I think I have a solution for you. And Drew's like, okay. So Marco sits down, but they don't show us, so we don't get to hear what Marco says. All I know is for scenes for tomorrow, Marco goes back to Sidwell and he is livid. Livid at whatever he tells him he told Drew, because Sid was like, you're messing up the plan. I told you I had a plan. Right? I'm thinking, okay, there, he's not calm right now. Right? So let's get back to Geo and BLQ. So BLQ has brought this really beautiful bouquet of flowers. Geo had already lit his candle, and he's, talking to his mother silently, probably praying. And she walks in with her flowers, and she turns and she sees him, and he hears some heels walking. So he turns and he sees Brooklyn. And she goes, oh, Gio, I didn't know you would be here. I was just bringing this bouquet of flowers, you know, for Camilla and honoring, remembering her birthday. But I can come back later, right? So she turns and she's going to just walk away. And he says, no, no, you can stay. He says, this is about my mother. So no, you know, you, you can stay. So she puts the flowers down. And then she comes back and she lights a candle. And they just start talking about how Camilla was, and the what they loved the most about her. Because remember, Brooklyn knew her all her life, Camilla. So it was just a good for them reminiscing. And she goes, Gio, you were her world. She loved you more than she loved anything. And he's like, I know. She was my world too. And I loved her. And then he's just talking about how she made him feel and all this other stuff. And Brooklyn said, now that I know that my baby went to Camilla, she goes, that makes me so happy because I saw how much she loved you. It's just, a shame her life got cut short. She goes, but I saw how much she loved you. And he just looked at her, right? So then next scene, they're sitting in the pew, still talking about, Camilla and the whole 9 yards. And he says, I used to think I inherited my musical talent from my mother. And he goes, but now Brooklyn says, you did. She worked with you and the violin from the time you could pick one up. She says, you did inherit. She instilled the value of music in you, the love of it. She goes, you inherited from her. So they talked, and then Brooklyn stood up. She goes, well, you know what? I have taken enough of your time. I'm going to go ahead and leave you here, and it was nice talking with you, Gio. She got up and she left. And he just looked at her as she left. And I thought, I'm glad she did that. See, Brooklyn did not overstay her welcome. She did not turn it personal, saying, will you forgive me? Will you this? Will you that? You know, the only personal thing she said is, now that she knows he was her son and Camilla was his mother, she knows she made the right decision, right? That's the only personal thing she said. So I thought, nah, I like that scene. She's giving him space. She's not trying to push him into accepting her. And he will come to her. He will come to her when he is ready. Now, the other thing that happened is Stella got arrested. They came back and they said, no, they got orders from higher up to arrest her. And Isaiah ran into Jordan's office because Curtis was in there with Jordan, and he told them both they need to come out because those guys are back, the agents are back, and they're talking to Stella. So when they go out, they say, and Curtis said, well, I'm gonna call, her representation, And they said, well, you could just tell them to meet us down at the GCPD, at the PCPD. And Curtis said, what? And Stella looked and says, wait, PCPD? And he's like, Stella Henry, you're under arrest. Well, Curtis had gone and he called Alexis. She didn't pick up because she's busy talking to Rick Gluten. you know, he calls Jordan, who was with Sidwell. And Jordan said, I'll be right over. Apparently, Jordan called some contacts she had that were higher up. And she gets there and Portia sees Jordan walk in because Portia couldn't get nothing done, right? The hospital lawyers didn't say they're on their way. So Portia told the guys, listen, just wait a few minutes. I make calls to this person, that, your higher up superiors, and they're going to let you know if the decision to arrest Stella Henry has been canceled. So she says, look, just wait a few minutes. And they said, fine. They didn't care. So they sat down and Curtis was like, thank you. And Stella's looking now, she's taking it seriously. See, now she's serious. Isaiah and Portia are at the nurse's station because Portia was trying to see if the attorneys had something that they could say, but she's watching Curtis and Jordan. Now they're trying to help Stella. Curtis and Jordan were not hugging each other. They weren't touching each other, right? She bought Stella some time, right? So Portia hangs up the phone, and Isaiah, he's all looking at Portia's expression, and he's looking over there at Curtis and Jordan, and he's looking at, I said, Isaiah, you are a piece of work. And he's like, are you okay? And she's just looking. And he's looking, and the way he's doing it is like, I see it too. Everything but saying, I see it too, right? So Portia steps off the nurse's station and she goes to Curtis. Oh, wait a minute. No, the guys got word from their superior, and their superior said, no, I think Portia was still there because I had walked away because Curtis says, where are you going, Portia? And she goes, I'm going back to my office because it seems that there's nothing I can do that you and your ex-wife can't do together. So she goes huffing off, right? And I said, yeah, see, there you go. Now you're going to go do something stupid. And you're going to look at Curtis and say, I'm sorry, Curtis. I'm sorry. I was so upset at watching Jordan try to help Stella, right? that when Isaiah came into my office, I slept with him. I'm sorry, Curtis. Can you forgive me? I made a mistake. That's Portia, right? So Curtis just looked at her like, are you kidding me? Right? This is on whatever, right? So the guys got a phone call and they said, nope, the uh order to arrest Miss Henry has not been vacated. So Stella Henry, you are under arrest. And so Curtis says and they're taking her to the elevator. She's like, get your hands off me. So they're in the elevator with her, and Curtis is going to try to come. They said, excuse me. She goes, he says, I'm coming with my aunt. And they said, nah, no, you're not like riding with us. And so he looked and he goes, and you won't be able to talk to her, they told him at the station. And I'm thinking, yeah, he could still be there for support, 100%. And my thing is, they're not from the FBI, CIA, or the police department. No, I'm not letting my aunt get in a unmarked vehicle, and I haven't even seen any badges from you guys. Absolutely not. So he did finally get a hold of Alexis, but Alexis had the opportunity to tell Sonny what Drew's doing. Or Sonny said, Christina told me, because her and Molly were there, told him what Drew did, and they got served, and he's like, oh, that's terrible. And so she's gonna meet him there. And when Sonny was talking to Alexis, she told him, and he says, she goes, I lost it in the restaurant yesterday when he had me served. Sonny said, oh, I know how I would feel if I couldn't see my grandkids, my grandchildren. He goes, well, listen, Drew's gonna get what's coming to him. And she goes, what do you mean? Do you know something I don't know? And he looked at her, he goes, no. But Drew is making a whole lot of enemies. And when you start making that many enemies, you got a target on your back. That's what I'm saying. So Alexis is like, okay. So anyway, she got the call. So she's going to meet him at the PCPD, but that's going to be for tomorrow. And the last thing I'm going to talk about is stupid Lucas. Liz is talking to him saying, you haven't had any more, have you had any run-ins or situations with Willow? And Lucas says, no. Well, she goes, why? She goes, well, Drew might be coming around, and he goes, and if he does, Willow can have him. I'm staying out of it because if that's the path she wants to go down, it's not going to end well for her. She can have that path. And Elizabeth says, oh, okay. Now, see, Elizabeth, they didn't even show her confronting Willow. They just show her that she heard, But Lucas and Elizabeth were talking some more, and Elizabeth said, hey, how is it or Ava came up, she hasn't been able to sleep. Could he give her a prescription for some sleeping pills? And he goes, well, your primary should be. She goes, I know, and I tried to make an appointment. They can't get me in for a month. So Lucas says, okay, I'll get you a prescription, but only for 30 days worth, and it cannot be refilled. She goes, no, that gives me enough time to get to my doctor, right? So then she leaves, and then I think that's when Elizabeth said, so how is it staying with your aunt, Ava? And he goes, actually, it's actually kind of nice. I like my Aunt Ava. She's funny. She has a sense of humor. And Elizabeth said, Ava Jerome? And he goes, yes. He said, so right now, because she goes, but Lucas, you need to get a place of your own. You know you can afford one. He goes, yeah, but you know what? For right now, I like, not having any responsibilities of a place, and I'm okay. And she goes, oh, and in other words, you're hoping that Marco will want to get a place with you. And he goes, oh, it's too soon for that, but yeah, maybe. And I said, now he knows Ava's checkered past. Mm. Hmm. What's the thing with Ava? Goodness, y'all, hold on for a second. Started choking, and now my eyes are all watery and voice is jacked up. But anyway, Ava, a lot of people don't know what Ava has done. Like, yeah, they finally know about Morgan, but they do not know about the Nicholas situation. They don't know some of her other dirty dealings. They won't know about the Rick situation. So Ava is able to fly under the radar more, right? So anyway, goodness, I was gonna do comment corner, but now I could barely barely talk here to take my inhaler. So anyway, that's it for the daily recap. I will be back tomorrow. Sorry about comment corner, but you all did a phenomenal phenomenal job of comment corner. I'm loving it. And I will have to check. I was gone for most of the day today. I didn't get a chance to check the voice line. If I'll get that video up with the comments from today. If not tonight, I'll get it up tomorrow. All right, everybody. I'll be back tomorrow with another a daily recap of General Hospital.